The big drama-o-rama continues to be hovering over Kyrie Irving. It's all about Kyrie Irving and his situation. The malcontent guard in Brooklyn is causing a ruckus in that city and around the NBA. The Nets are the betting favorite to win the NBA title, whatever that's worth. But they have messed up royally as far as Kyrie is concerned, right? He's not happy. They're not happy with Kyrie. They've got some issues. They're disheveled right now as they get ready for the season in San Diego, where they're holding training camp because that's where the Brooklyn Nets owner loves, in San Diego. Anyway, so Kyrie, he may have to miss, if you've not been following along, he may have to miss all of the home games, 41 of the games, plus the games against the Knicks, plus the game against the Golden State Warriors, if he is not vaccinated. There are certain cities that have mandates to get vaccinated. You're not allowed to play. And it happens that New York and San Francisco, a couple of woke cities, and they're saying you got to have the vaccination. You can't play. So Kyrie Irving doesn't want the vaccination, from what we're reading here, and he did not attend the media day that took place this week in person. He was there on Zoom. They say because of the mandate. He asked on Zoom for people to respect his privacy, which of course no one is doing. Anyway, that brings us to the wisdom of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq Daddy. Did you hear what he had to say? He chimed in on this. The TNT commentator, Shaquille O'Neal, advised the owner of the Brooklyn Nets to get Kyrie out of here, he said. Shaq went on to say that he thinks the Nets are good enough to win a championship without Kyrie Irving. In fact, just to prove I'm not making this up, here is Shaquille O'Neal in his own words advocating for Kyrie to leave and that the Nets are really good, whether he's there or not.
If Kyrie was your teammate, what would you be saying? Especially if you're chasing a championship, how would you process this whole vaccination thing and everything else that comes along with Kyrie?
I would go upstairs and say, get him up out of here. Get him up out of here. We go in with a 2-punch and a great shooter and some rebounders like we got. Get his ass up out of here. Because now every day I have to answer questions about him and what he's doing there. Get his ass up out of here.
Wow. You think that actually happens?
I don't know. But you asked me if I was on the team.
Yep.
Of course, if I played with him, I'd be in charge all the way, all day. So,
yeah.
I mean, hey, whoever owns the Brooklyn Nets, get them up out of here.
Okay. Now, I got to tell you, coming from Shaquille O'Neal, and I was around him when he played for the Lakers back in the day, and he had one of the great exits when he got hurt, and he waited until the following season to have surgery because he said he got hurt on company time, so he was gonna have the surgery on company time. So by the Shaq standard, Shaq they should have gotten rid of him, right? That's it. Get out of here. Anyway, so that was the Shaquille O'Neal soundbite. Now, we have also learned that Kyrie, if you believe the scuttlebutt around the NBA, since he doesn't want to get the vaccine, he is virtually untradeable. In fact, NBA guru Chris Manning's telling us that his trade value would be virtually zero if the Nets were even willing to trade Kyrie Irving. So let us discuss, right? Hypothetical. We love hypotheticals. You're never wrong with hypotheticals. The question, Kyrie Irving, virtually untradeable for the Nets, is that real or not? So I'm voting not. I am voting not real. Now, my views on this, you've got Bruce Springsteen, BMW, and machismo. And we'll connect all of these things together, and those will be all elements of this Maller monologue. First of all, listen, Kyrie Irving, he's not the flavor of the month. He's not my flavor of the month. However, his abilities speak for themselves. He's a very good basketball player. That's why he's been able to make a ton of money, and people put up with his bullcrap. Because trust me, if Kyrie was just a replacement-level baseline basketball player, no one would put up with his crap. But he's really good. And when you're really good at any job, management is willing to put up with a whole lot of stuff they wouldn't put up with. I know working in the radio business, there have been certain people that I've come across in my career that have been complete a-holes, complete schmucks, douches, whatever you want to say, but they get ratings and they make money and advertisers like them, so management puts up with them. Now, the moment that ends, they get rid of you. The moment Kyrie Irving can no longer break ankles, that's the moment they get rid of Kyrie Irving. But even with his lack of a vaccine, the Nets, they would have multiple bidders if they were to put a for sale sign outside of Kyrie Irving's humble abode and say, all right, he's available. What do you want? What do you want to give us? Kyrie is an acquired taste. It's not the taste that I would choose, but the skill set is so rare and at a premium that trumps everything else. Sports executives would, if in this world where Kyrie was made available, they would go full Bruce Springsteen, right? Blinded by the light of the ability. And executives in football and all sports, basketball, baseball, never give up on talent. That's why you can be a complete loser in terms of how society perceives you. But if you're good at hitting the baseball or scoring touchdowns or putting balls in baskets, you will have opportunities. Even though the normal person, society would frown upon. But the space cadet known as Uncle Drew in Hollywood, he's in those circles, right? He hangs out with the Hollywood crowd, and they feed him stuff, and then he goes down these rabbit holes on YouTube, from what we've heard, and all kinds of wild things happen. He's electric on the court, and so he is the house. He's the powerhouse on the court. And as long as that's true, then the Nets would absolutely be able to get something for him because he goes into that game breaker mode. Now, secondly, Kyrie Irving, if you take a couple of steps back, he can be the alpha dog, but you can't be the alpha dog if you're in the dog house. And that's the problem. In fact, he's not even allowed in the doghouse at this particular moment. So dependability, as the cliche goes, is more important than ability, which actually makes him more attractive to be traded. And I'm going to tell you why. Right? Let me give you my evidence on that. So this would be what's known as value shopping. Now, it's value shopping for Kyrie Irving. He's damaged goods because he can't play all the games. Imagine, if you will, a world where you can get a $130,000 fully loaded BMW, fully loaded, $130,000 for the price of a Toyota Camry. But there's a couple of dents in the BMW, and you got to replace a tire, and the brakes aren't that great. You'd make that transaction, right? If you could do that, $130,000 car, fully loaded, for the price of a much cheaper automobile. Right? You would get Kyrie, if you were to trade for him, at a discount rate. And he would be able to play twice as many games for whatever team that is, assuming he wanted to play for that team, compared to Brooklyn. So obviously we wouldn't trade him to the Knicks, but you think about some of the Eastern Conference teams, Miami comes to mind. That's always an exotic destination. Everyone wants to play on the Eastern Conference, want to play in Miami. Never underestimate the Father Flanagan type in basketball who believe that all Kyrie Irving needs is to be around their coach, their assistants, their trainer, and a change of scenery. And they'll do it better than the other team. They know how to sugarcoat and massage Kyrie more than the Nets, and it's the greater fool theory in effect. That there's always a greater fool out there. You just have to find the greater fool. All right, final thought. So Brooklyn, they knew exactly what they were getting. Kyrie Irving has played more than 70 games only once since 2015. And he's getting $35 million as a ball player to play a limited number of games. And he's not going to get that. You're actually getting Kyrie for the games he plays in, and you don't have to pay him for the games he misses. We'll see how convinced Kyrie is that he doesn't want the vaccine once they start docking him $400,000 per game that he's unable to play in. But he hasn't been around that much anyway. He's often got some kind of ailment, or he might have a social event with his family and he has to miss a week because of parties and things. Listen, it's very tough. When you have a lot of relatives and you want to be at those parties, work can get in the way. So he wants some me time. He likes to have me time. And he hasn't been bashful about being a prima donna at all. Typical trope of the egotistical, self-centered, smartest guy in the room syndrome. Now, there is no I in team, but there is an I in Kyrie. You can't spell Kyrie without the I, at least the way he spells it. And in the old days, they would call that a bad teammate. Now, that's just one of the elite talents in the NBA. It's to be expected. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. Let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I do not believe the Nets have the machismo to actually trade Kyrie for multiple reasons. Right? The main reason is they want to be known as the team that spoils their players, that babies their players. And Kyrie would go scorched earth if he is traded. He would say he's not going to play, and he'd rip the Nets for turning their back on him and all that. See, they don't have the chutzpah also to do that. You know, there's only certain teams that would make that kind of move. Like the Clippers made that move, and now they're a perennial championship contender. But they gave back their word on Blake Griffin. They had signed Blake Griffin to a contract, and Steve Ballmer realized that was a mistake, and we've got to get rid of this guy. We've got to get somebody else in here, and there's a path to Kawhi Leonard, and the Clippers traded Blake Griffin to the Pistons, and now they were just in the Final Four this year. But the Nets aren't that kind of team. They're not that kind of team. They won't do that. So looking into the crystal ball, it would not surprise me if Kyrie milks this like the opposite of a golden cow. Because a golden cow, you just keep milking it, you get money. But this is the opposite. He loathes playing. He despises playing in the regular season, other than a few glamour games. It's an inconvenience to Kyrie. So in order for this to work, he's going to have to give back a lot of money. As we mentioned, $400,000 fine every game he misses where he could play if he had the vaccine. And even if you've got a lot of money, $400,000 is not chump change. That's going to hit you at some point down the line because you got to pay your mortgages and you got to pay all the people that hang around you that ride your coattails and all those, the hangers on. So that'll get you. But here's what I see happen. So I think he's hard-headed. He's pig-headed like me. So he'll make it through most of the regular season. And then about a month before the regular season ends, Kyrie says, you know what, I want to play in the playoffs, so I'll get the vaccine. And then I'll play in the postseason. So now the Nets, they believe that they're going to convince Kyrie to get the vaccine. And I don't know about that. From what I know, just following Kyrie's career, being on the microphone here and documenting some of the shenanigans that he's had, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to walk back on a position. He's going to double, triple down on that, and that's just the way it's going to be. Now, if the Nets really want to get to Kyrie, they can trade him to like Memphis or something like that, or Sacramento or Minnesota, and that'll be the ultimate FU.